Did you ever think about getting into coaching when you got done? Or does the Brian Flores kind of,
deter you or discourage you from
Yeah.
wanting to get into coaching based on really kind of what black coaches have experienced thus far? I mean, now we only have one black coach, and that's Mike Tomlin. Yeah. And you think about, for me, I'm taking it personal because a coach, my receiver coach in Philly, David Culley, felt he was dealt a bad hand in Houston. And for me, as soon as I heard he was fired, I immediately—
After 1 year?
Yeah, after 1 year, going 4-13 or whatever the case may be, didn't have Deshaun Watson as his number one quarterback the entire year. Obviously, there was
Traded
talks
D-Hop
of—
prior.
Right, talking about trading. They couldn't get anything for him. And obviously, he was going through those allegations, letting the process try to take care of itself to see what his future was. But I felt really bad that David Culley was fired after 1 year. And then you think about Brian Flores, who we're obviously here to talk about. This might be the only time that you have, number one, a black coach, number one, and then he has 2 back-to-back winning seasons.
Right.
And then his last 9 games, he goes 8-1.
Yeah.
And he gets fired. For me, that's unheard of. For me, if that's not blatant racism, I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
And I don't know what else it needs to be done to like hit us in the face, like, yo, this is what's going on. And then the world is reacting like this is nothing.
Yes, all right. So first, about the coaching stuff. Yeah, I think we all think about it, because I thought about it. As a matter of fact, I did a coaching intern with Mike Shanahan when he was in Washington. And Kyle Shanahan was the OC. And Sean McVay was the tight ends coach there. Right. So they were all there. So I did that for about 2 weeks. It was in the summer training camp. And I realized after, it was supposed to be a 3-week intern. I ended up leaving in like after a week and a half, because I realized that coaching on that level is not for me at that time. Just because the amount of time, it's like we're players, right?
It's very time consuming.
It is, man. So as a player,
people understand that.
Yeah. So our schedule's already kind of a long schedule, but them coaches are in there,
well
hours,
before we there,
and they leave
well after
us.
Yeah.
And I was like, I started asking myself at that time, was that something I really wanted to do? And the answer was no.
Especially because of the pay as well. Because as just a regular coach, you're not getting paid offensive coordinator money. You're not getting paid head coach money.
180.
It's grunt work, man. It's grunt work.
So it's like you said, you've already went through the grind.
Yeah, I don't know if
to get paid handsomely for what you've
done. Now you gotta go all the way back and start from scratch. So at that time I said no, but I have coached high school football. I did that 2 years, high school down in Temecula, California, called Rancho Christian. So I did that. That was fun with the running backs. And that was more suited to my schedule. So I did that. So now, that was it. But I also, so now getting back to the coaching stuff, absolutely. Here's the deal. We all know what's happening, right? We see it. Black coaches don't get the same runway or leeway as white coaches. They don't. The whole thing, we are the last to get hired. We're the first to get fired. A lot of black players who want to coach are told that they have to come in and go way back to the back of the line. And they have to work their way back up to the pipes.
You started like quality control. Like you start at the bottom.
It's at the bottom. It's the bottom. And I know a couple of guys who I played with were like, listen, why do I have to go to the bottom when I played the game? I don't need to start
with something, obviously.
Right. So, I mean, bring the guy in as a position coach. Yeah. But that hasn't happened. The intake system is bad for the NFL, meaning we don't have an intake system that allows minorities and blacks to come in and then have them come up through the ranks, or have a head coach who says, I'm going to mentor you and bring you up through the ranks. You see, all the white coaches, they have that.
Yes.
They have their guys that they're grooming to be head coaches when they come in. Black coaches,
we don't have that.
We don't have that when we come in. So there is definitely a problem that we have all these coaching spots.
Leftwich still hasn't gotten hired.
And you got Eric Bieniemy.
Still hasn't gotten. Bowles hasn't gotten hired.
And these are guys that have had coaching, really prominent coaching positions. And then, like I said, a couple of guys have had.
Bowles used to be he was a head coach.
Raheem Mars.
Raheem was a head coach at Tampa
as well.
Oh yeah.
Or Atlanta.
These guys are it. And so the problem is when you talk about like NFL owners, What's going to make them have to hire a minority coach?
We've
tried with the Rooney.
Trust me, the Rooney Rule has been in since 2003. Those players and even the coaches, and I think what Brian Flores has done is really highlighted what we've known.
Yeah.
And he's bringing it to the forefront. And I'm hoping that what he's doing right now is basically giving a blueprint to these players that you have to sacrifice.
Yeah.
Because he's giving up a lot to be and put himself in the forefront to really go against the NFL. And he understands the repercussions of that. Because he may not get another head coaching job or a job, period, in the NFL. But what he's doing should be sending a message to the 70-plus black players, brown players, that you can use your leverage to get what you want. Because the owners, as it is right now, they have these players thinking that we need them. They need us.
So you saying the players should hop in and boycott?
They need us, because if you take away the 70-plus black and brown players,
70%.
what is the league?
You don't have a league.
But so all right, so you boycott.
But you got to have a plan. I mean, not just boycott. You got to have a plan of action.
So what is going to hold these owners accountable to have to hire black? What's the process? Because it has to be a transparent process that we can see. Because what they're saying right now is they're hiring the most qualified coach for the job. Right. So
in their opinion, that's what
because it's right. It is.
How can you
it's
say
subjective.
That? Yeah.
So the only way that you can have an objective answer solution, you have to have, okay, so what's your process?
Plan of action. Obviously, like I said, the powers that be are the guys. Obviously, like I said, Brian Flores and other coaches, Hugh Jackson, who's also come out and spoke about some of the things that have happened while he was coaching. Obviously, the players in positions of power. I call it POP, acronym, POP. Players in positions of power.
Right.
PPO. Those players have to step up to the forefront and be able, like I said, set up and put a plan in action. NFLPA, all those guys have to be on board. They have to be on the same page in order for these things to happen.
Yeah.
You just can't be rolling like, oh, we're going to boycott. But you got to be strategic about it.
So, I ask you again, how do you force a billionaire owner to have to hire a black coach?
I don't think you can.
That's the problem.
But once they start losing money, they're going to have to do something.
I think we're all saying the same thing. We're just trying to find what's the solution, because the Rooney Rule came in and said, okay, now you cannot ignore a black coaching candidate. You have to at least interview one. Now it's two.
But that's just smoke and mirrors.
That's what I'm saying, Tio. So when you start saying, well, how do we finally get it to where they have to? You can't, there's no way around it.
There's no way around it because it's theirs.
Because you can say affirmative action sort of. Clause where you say the NFL that you have to have. Let's say the NFL said, all right, we're gonna put this thing together where there's got to be at least 10 black coaches
out of 32 teams.
Right.
You know the problem with that is, which owner is gonna say, okay, they are gonna be like, well, you do it.
Well, then they gonna have.
You do it. No, you do it.
That's like you told us earlier. That's a personal problem. That's a personal problem. They have to figure it out.
But they don't have to.
But then once they start,
they're in control. They don't have to.
When they start losing money, bro, they gonna have to go.
But they're not losing money.
I said once those players get in a situation where you push them trust me.
Players are not going to ever boycott the NFL.
We're speaking hypothetically.
Yeah, no,
I get what you're saying, but we're speaking hypothetically here.
Yes.
There has to be, like I said, they have to understand the power and the leverage that they have, especially with these platforms, and where now, like I said, we have platforms where guys can speak up. You know what I mean? You can speak up for yourself. You can do certain things, like I said, to get what you want. Look at the NBA. You can take what those guys are doing. You think about the top players. And you got to have, obviously, it's one owner. You got Adam Silver, who understands that without the players, there's no NBA.
But NBA players complain about the same thing NFL players do.
But they've made more headway.
Absolutely.
They have guaranteed contracts. Yeah. There are a lot of things.
They got a better influence over their.
Absolutely.
But those are the
Adam Silver
players in position of power that I'm talking about. So you think about the LeBrons, the CP3s, the Durants, the Kyries. These are guys in the Melos. These are guys that kind of like the faces of the NBA that understand the leverage and the power that they have to get what they want.
Do you remember, did it happen this year, or maybe it was the year before? And I don't know if the NFL has implemented it, but they were trying to reward teams for having minority.
Yeah. That was I think a year or so ago.
Going into last year, I think, so 2 years
Did that
ago.
pass? Did they
no
do
idea.
that? I can't remember if they did or not.
I don't know. And the new CBA.
Yeah, like give you extra draft pick if you hired a minority candidate.
Compensatory
So
draft.
that tells you the NFL knows that there is a major problem.
Right.
Right.
But there's also 31 guys saying, I don't care.
Exactly.
That
You got these owners. It's like,
it's my,
hey,
it's my toy.
I'm gonna hire who I think is the best person, and you're not gonna tell me what that person needs to look like. And so until that's the problem. One of the things I think they could do is say, all right, here's the deal. We have this coaches portal. And all the coaches in it, you can only hire from this group of coaches. And then you flood that portal with nothing but minority coaches.
Right.
Black. So you say, all right, you make sure you get all the qualified minority coaches, you put them in this portal, and you make sure the NFL says they're gonna allocate whatever guys to be trained, to be mentored in these systems. And then now, when it's time to hire coaches, you can only hire them from this. You can't hire them from college. You can't go outside of this.
Right.
That to me will increase because your pool is flooded with.
Yes.
Now, if you got a pool of
And
like
there's-
50 and you still don't get no black,
Then we already know. Right, you're back to square one.
But I think the word that you use is qualified. Like what makes, I guess, in the owner's mind and what you just said, like they're hiring qualified coaches. What in their mind identifies as qualified? Like what is that?
What
Like
they
what
consider-
years of experience?
And it ain't got nothing to do with experience because if all three of us sit here and say, what do we think is a qualified coach? We're all gonna have different opinions.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. But to his point, he's like, yo, the owners are saying we're hiring qualified coaches.
that's typically what the pushback is. Like
Right.
we're hiring the most qualified coach,
Right.
and so it's that word that you can use. And it's hard to challenge that because it's subjective.
Right, but so let's go to the Giants who hired Joe Judge. This guy was a receiver coach.
Right.
Just popped up out of nowhere.
They said they thought he was
A
qualified.
receiver coach. So
was
how do you
qualified.
think like
He was qualified.
He was qualified.
So again, but at this time you have guys in positions, offensive coordinators, defensive coordinators. How do you quantify that a receiver coach is more qualified than a guy that's an offensive coordinator or a defensive coach with more responsibilities? You get what I'm saying?
I hear what you're saying. And listen, in case in point, we know it.
Right, but
We see it, we know it, we live it. And it's almost like you talk about Eric Bieniemy.
Right.
If Eric Bieniemy, if he were white, period. I mean, do you think that
he would have already had a
Do you
job.
think he would still been sitting there in Kansas
Well, they would have
City?
been talking to him during the season, during the
Right.
playoffs. They would have already had him lined up for an interview right after whenever they played.
So there's something there's something that is hard for us to we see it.
Right.
They can do what they want to do if they want to do it. So and I say that. So for example, have you guys heard that now they're trying to switch up because it's happened 2 years back to back now for teams having an advantage going to the Super Bowl of their city. So
they're trying to do what?
Yeah, they're changing that. They're going to go to a neutral site because the last 2 years.
It was
Tampa
and
Bay,
this year of the Rams.
Yeah,
Those are anomalies. That's not going to
Yeah,
happen.
right,
but they're making a rule that they're about to change that.
Next year's Super Bowl.
They're about to change that they have to go to a neutral site.
They don't think it's fair to the visiting.
Right.
They think it's a home game.
So now they're about to look how quick they're about to make this change.
Well,
And I
them,
say
that's yeah.
But what I'm getting at
can change
is
anything.
they can do what they want to do because this has happened twice.
You just said the right words. They can do what they want to do.
Right.
Period.
So my
And they
thing,
don't want to
and
do
I
what
respect
they don't want to do what you asked.
No, I get it. But I responded. I saw that and I responded to that. I'm like, yo,
They ain't doing what you want them to do. They ain't
right.
gonna do that.
And so I was like, I responded. I'm like, man, isn't this funny? It's taken 2 years for them to make a change, but then the Rooney Rule has been in since 2003 about hiring, minority coaches, and they have yet to make any type of changes to make it happen, to make it change.
Well, they made the change with adding another coach. It was one.
Right now, it had to be two.
I know.
But that still don't matter. I know, but you can.
They're doing it
They
to
can say-
pacify and just patronize. They're just putting a Band-Aid on something that, like I said, that's been bleeding for so many
You know
years.
what the answer is? Get your own team.
There you go.
That's
you got
right.
hey, listen.
Wait.
But what is that going to take? What is that? I get you.
It takes $4 billion.
You got
He can
$4.5
put you in
billion.
contact with the Denver Broncos. They're up for sale right now.
They had that some years back when the Carolina Panthers. Who was it? Diddy and Jay-Z and some other cats had money. You don't think those cats had billions put together?
I get a team. That's the only solution.
You just said what has already been tried, been attempted.
No. You can get a team, right? Build your team. Get $4.5 billion. Call TD. He go
But
put
they're
you
gonna
in
have to add another. So you think the owners are going to accept another team? It's still going to be because they got to vote them in.
Yeah.
So that's
in the next 10 years.
Again.
In the next 10 years, there'll be an African American owner in the NFL.
But again, those owners have to vote that guy in.
They do.
I think there'll be one in the next 10 years. I think Fitzgerald has a chance. He's got a percentage of the Suns. I think he'll have a percentage of an NFL team in the next 10 years.
Here's another thing I thought too.
Percentage and what that percentage is, like I said, where he is as far as majority, that's gonna take
$2 billion.
Right, that's gonna be taken into account as well.
Yeah, but if he got a piece of it, so I was talking to a buddy the other day. I was like, this is what the NFL should do. They should make the owners put up 10% of their team and sell off to minorities. So that each franchise, almost like the Green Bay Packer model, public, but not public to players, minority players. Nice. Like put it up there and say, hey, we're gonna allocate whether it's 10%, 5%, this amount. You guys can buy into the team and become owners. When that happens, or if it ever happens. Now you have the ear. Now you're part owner, and now you're sitting there
part of the
conversation, and say, hey, listen. And I don't think all owners are like racist, or I don't think that's the case. I think they they don't have the information,
right?
And sometimes they don't know what they don't know,
right?
And you have somebody who's closer to them saying, hey, listen, man. We need to start focusing on these candidates right here, and let me tell you why. Yeah. These candidates are highly qualified. Whether it's like,
and some owners are going to listen, and some are not.
Some won't.
Right.
You're not going to get everybody to listen. Right. Somebody's like, I don't care what they they'll might tell you, hey, I don't care what they look like. I want a qualified candidate, but I want this dude, and he happens not to be black.
Right.
So, but if we were able to be part of the conversation and be inside those meetings,
at that dinner table.
There Absolutely. It is. Now you got your 40 acres and a mule right there.
There it is.